I think I need to cry. The rule with my friends is no crying alone. And what we're desperately needing more than anything is a help others industry. Like, we do not teach people how to help each other. We do podcasts and write books about how how you can find love and how you can build your business and how you can become a millionaire and how you can find the job that you love. It's all about me, and there's not enough about how can you help somebody else find love? How can you help somebody else find commercial success? We don't do that. We don't teach it. And those are the skills that are desperately needed for each of us to find mental fitness, because we can't do it alone. When you find darkness, however you want to define your darkness, you feel alone, you feel like nobody can help you, you feel like you have no agency, you feel like you have a lack of control. And the first thing that a lot of us should do is reach out to a friend and say, I'm struggling, or I need help, or I'm lonely, or I'm depressed, or I'm sad, whatever the feeling is. And that person, do your friends, do your colleagues, do your teachers have the skills to know how to hold space? So the first mistake people make is they try and fix. Don't try and fix. It's not a fixing thing, It's like I had a bad day at the gym. Nothing to fix. Nothing to fix. But then do you know how to listen? Do you know how to hold space? And I think one of the reasons more of us are struggling with mental fitness is because we ourselves lack the skills to help our friends who are struggling with mental fitness. And the more that we as a society are equipped to help each other, the more that there are other people there to help us. So, if and I have a rule with my friends. My rule is no crying alone. My close friends all know this, and we all obey it. Like, I'll get a call from somebody who's a significant person in the world that people know who they are, and they'll call me and say, "Do you have a minute?" I'll be like, "Yeah, what's up?" They're like, I think I need to cry." I'm like, "Go. What's on your mind?" And they'll tell me what's on their mind, and they will cry. And that's my rule. My rule with my friends is no crying alone. Because if you're at the point of absolute frustration, exhaustion, whatever it is that you can't hold it in, I'd rather you call me or one of us and you do it with somebody. You should never cry alone. And so I'm really good when I'm in a place like this of calling somebody and telling them, because I don't want to go through this alone. And some of my friends do have the skills where they can say, "How do you feel?" "Oh, this is how I feel." "That must be really frustrating." "Yeah, it's really hard." "Tell me more about that." "Well, I'm sort of going through this and that." And they know how to hold space. That's all I need. I need somebody to sit in the mud with me. Don't need them to fix me or clean me off or give me a towel. I just need them to sit in the mud with me so I don't feel alone when I'm sitting in the mud. And
so what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, "I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed." And then we look and we say, "Hey, you can climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone." Sympathy is, "Ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich?" Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an
My
ace
friend
too.
Maria,
But one
I was over at her house, and we were just catching up. And she told me that the week before, she had a really, really hard week. And I said, why didn't you call me? I'm here for you. She says, I did. I reached out. I said, no, you didn't. She goes, I did. I texted you. I'm like, you did not text me. She goes, I did. So, of course, I pull out my phone, and I scroll up, and I look for her text. And sure enough, it says, hey, what are you doing? Want to come over? I'm like, you mean these texts? The one that sound like every other text you've ever sent me ever? I'm like, how do I know that that's a cry for help? And it was so upsetting to me because I wanted to be there for my friend. She had read an article just recently that said that all human beings need is 8 minutes of time from another friend to feel not alone in a moment of stress and a moment of need. And so she and I came up with a code word that the next time one of us really needs the other person, that instead of just sending a random text thinking that they'll be able to decipher that we're struggling, our code would be, do you have 8 minutes?
Wow.
And it makes me cry each time I talk about it. Anyone can step out of a meeting for 8 minutes. You won't solve your problem, your friend's problems, and it may take hours, if not days, to help them and be there with them and sit in mud with them. But it only takes 8 minutes for them to feel like they're dealing with whatever they're dealing, not alone.
Wow.
And this is the power of friendship. This is the power of friendship.
Well, good morning. I'm glad that you're joining me this morning. I just watched a fascinating video from Simon Sinek. He's probably one of the top leadership speakers. And he talked about no crying alone. And then he talked about this 8-minute friendship hack. And so it got me thinking that one of the most powerful ways that God has provided for us as we get anxious or overwhelmed or depressed is the body of Christ. That's the way it was set up to be and the way it was supposed to work. I mean, even back to the New Testament, Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 12 says, two is better than one. When you fall down, the other can pick you up. And a cord of three is very hard to break. It's been there since the beginning, Jonathan and David, on how much part of our growth and dealing with tough things we can't do alone, and we can't do just with God. It reminds me, and sometimes it's like, well, yeah, that's not right. Well, actually, that's the way that he set it up. Jesus, overwhelmed after the Lord's Supper, after the last time with the disciples, he could have gone and just spent time with his Father. He needed the disciples, and so he took them with him. Didn't have to. And we know that he needed them for two other reasons. He had Peter, James, and John to be closer, and then he needed them to connect with what was going on, pray with me, and of course they messed that up. But he went back 2 times to say, I need you to be awake. I need your presence and prayers along with my spending my time with my Father. So he needed relationship also. And so anyways, back to Simon Sinek. We'll attach that video to you. But so often when we're overwhelmed, we just try to figure it out ourselves or just with God. And so he talks about one of his friends went through a tough time and didn't call him. And he says his rule now is with his friends, no one cries alone. You call, you text something when things are difficult. And he says the research has that all you need is 8 minutes from someone who's just with you and present to feel that you're not alone, and it will help and strengthen you. It doesn't solve everything, but it is a beginning. And so as we text our friends, anyone can leave a meeting for 8 minutes. Anyone can stop work for 8 minutes to just respond and listen. And then you can go from there, later on. So my encouragement to you is when you're anxious, when something has gone wrong, your immediate response, along with your relationship with God, is call someone. And half of you, well, I don't know who to call. And that's where we really need to develop those safe kind of relationships. Okay, have a good day.